Tala Exile. Today we are making a showcase of the Elementalist non-crit Autobomber. Relatively cheap, it has good clearing speed and pretty much viable for boss killing at the same time. This build is non-crit based, which I believe lowers the gear requirements and thus the price. Cheap version costs around 6 or 7 exalts and deal around 3 million damage per second. Enhanced version may cost around 50 exalts with 5 million damage per second. How it works? Shaper of Storms Ascendancy skill makes each hit always shock an enemy. At this moment, Herald of Thunder is intensively hitting enemies around our character and makes us to take damage, which triggers cast when damage taken support. It triggers an anomalous shock nova that is connected with elemental proliferation that makes enemies around the character quickly become shocked in a wide area. If any of them dies at this moment, it creates chain reaction, wiping everything around the exile. This CVDT is level 1 to increase frequency of shock nova and utilize clear speed. We have second CVDT that triggers wave of conviction. It applies lightning exposure to enemies, increasing damage taken by 25%. Mastermind of Discord boosts that effect by additional 25%. With Hex Touch support, it also applies conductivity buff that reduces enemies' lightning resistance by additional 50%. Heart of Destruction increases our area of effect by 60% while we are not fighting unique enemies, otherwise increasing our damage by 30%. Thus we have wide area of effect while clearing maps and high damage when fighting bosses or other unique enemies. Elemental Overload Keystone increases damage by huge 40%, but Herald of Thunder cannot crit itself and we have to use our Stone Brand for that purpose. It also deals respective amount of damage in large group of enemies. Shaper of Winter chills our enemies with any type of damage, which allows us to boost our damage with hypothermia. The gear. First of all, the body armor. We use Impulse's Broken Heart. Shocked enemies we kill will explode, dealing 5% of their life as lightning damage. It makes chain reaction, usually devastating everything that surrounds our character. The second part of the build is the Storm Secret unique ring. With it, Herald of Thunder triggers every time Exile shocks an enemy. That makes Herald of Thunder viable for boss fights. Additionally, it increases frequency of Thunderstorm's hit, increasing our damage at average by 30%, which means that 2 rings are going to increase our damage by more than half. All come with a price, and every time Thunderstorm hits, it makes our Exile to take 250 damage. 2 rings mean 500 damage for each hit every 0.13 seconds. That means we are going to take 1000 damage per second. To sustain that damage we need a leech or lightning damage. An easiest way to solve this problem is to boost health points with items and use Amulet, which allocates hematophagy. Cheap version of this build has 5000 HP and fully covers leech requirements. On my current version it's above 6000. Now about my weapon. We are looking for stuff with +3 to lightning spell skill gams and +2 to all spell skill gams. Additionally increased lightning damage and chance to deal double damage. That is something around 30 exalted orbs. Cheap alternative would be Ignored South. Unique imperial stuff that also increases maximum lightning resistance. It's extremely cheap and will cost around 10 C as long as we don't need 6 link, which is really good. We can do that because we use Elementalist with Elemental Overload, which forces us to ignore crit multipliers and crit chance mechanics that usually use assassin autobombers. That's why my staff looks so lame. Now about the cluster jewels. We need Supercharge and Thunderbringer on large cluster jewel for significant damage boost. On medial cluster jewel we are looking for our Shock and Storm Rider. On the top of that, unique small cluster Calamitous Visions that disables our skills, increases Herald's effects and limits them to 1 at a time. Another medium cluster shall contain Empowered Envoy and Dark Messenger. Additionally, I have small cluster with HP increase and Surging Vitality that makes my life easier at boss fights with phases, but that may be easily ignored. With cluster jewels, our DPS is around 5 million. Without them, it's almost 4 times lower. At average we pay 2.5 exalted for all clusters. It is my most comfortable build that allows me to fully clear endgame content. Hope you liked the video. I made it because I'm selling my build for 200 exalts. Call me.